Sushruta for NEET is now available on the Google Play Store. Try it out for free.
In continuation of what you have studied in the last class, we shall now take up the study of gametogenesis. As you are aware, gametogenesis is the process of formation of gametes. Genesis is formation. Formation of gamete is known as gametogenesis. The primary sex organs, that is the testes in males and the ovaries in the females, produce gametes, that is sperms and ovum respectively. And this process is called gametogenesis. The formation of the sperms and ova by the male primary sex organ called the testis and female primary sex organ called the ovary is known as the gametogenesis. Now let us study this gametogenesis individually. You can see here this diagram depicts the spermatogenesis and oogenesis. You must know whether it is a spermatogenesis or oogenesis, there is always three phases. We come across three phases in both the spermatogenesis and the oogenesis. Phase 1 is always called multiplication phase. Multiplication phase. Multiplication phase is phase 1. Multiplication phase. Phase 2 is called growth phase. And phase 3 is called maturation phase. Maturation phase. These three phases we come across both in spermatogenesis and oogenesis. In brief, let me tell you what are these three phases. Later, we are going to study about the spermatogenesis and oogenesis separately. In the multiplication phase, the germ cells, that is the sperm mother cell or spermatogonia, and the ovum mother cells, what is called oogonia, they divide repeatedly. In the multiplication phase, the germ mother cells, sperm mother cells, that is spermatogonia, and ovum mother cells, that is oogonia, they divide repeatedly by what is known as mitosis. They divide by mitosis and form a large number of progeny cells. During growth phase, one of such divided cells, spermatogonium, sperm mother cell, divides repeatedly and forms a large number of these cells. One of these cells, they stop dividing and they grow in size to form the primary spermatocyte in case of the male and primary oocyte in case of the females. So, in the growth phase, actually, the spermatogonia or oogonia stop dividing and start preparing for the cell division, which results in the increase in the number of cell organelles, replication of the DNA, resulting in duplication of the chromosome. As a result of it, each and every cell becomes big in size. It literally grows. It is called growth phase. This growth phase is followed by maturation phase. Maturation phase is actually involves the reduction division. In a maturation phase, both these primary spermatocyte and the primary oocyte, they start undergoing first meiosis and result in the two daughter cells. and both these daughter cells undergo second meiotic division, and at the end of the maturation phase, you come across 4 of the daughter cells to get formed. These 4 daughter cells in spermatogenesis, they transform into that of the spermatozoa, and the daughter cells are called spermatids. They get transformed to spermatozoa in case of males. In case of females, only one of these 4 daughter cells grows further, it enlarges, and it forms what is called a oocyte, which gets transformed into ovum. So this is what you see, the major difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. I hope it is clear. Have you understood? Rakesh, have you understood?
Yes, sir.
So, I hope you understood what is happening with the multiplication phase, what is happening with the growth phase, and what is happening with the maturation phase. Maturation phase actually involves reduction division. Now, let us study this in detail. The in testis, the immature male germ cells, what you call it? Spermatogonia. The immature male germ cells, that is spermatogonia, produce sperms by spermatogenesis that begins at puberty. The spermatogonia present on the inner side, inside wall of seminiferous tubules, multiply by mitotic division. Therefore, you must remember that in spermatogenesis, not only meiosis takes place, at the beginning, there will be mitotic division. So, the spermatogonia present on the inner side of the seminiferous tubule undergo mitotic division and increase in numbers. So, what is this phase called? What is this phase called?
Multiplication
Phase. Each spermatogonium is diploid, that means 2n, diploid, and contains 46 chromosomes. Which one? Each spermatogonium. Some of these spermatogonia, called primary spermatocytes, periodically undergo meiosis. Each spermatogonium, which undergoes division by mitotic way, it results in a number of cells, and some of these spermatogonia now stop dividing and enlarge, and now they are called primary spermatocytes. And these primary spermatocytes, which are now formed, that they get formed in the growth phase. And after that growth phase, the primary spermatocyte enter into the maturation phase, where they undergo meiotic division. See, what you see here, these are all immature germ cells, sperm mother cells, and they are called spermatogonia. Spermatogonia enlarge in size. Can you see that they are bigger in size? Diti, can you see? Rakesh?
Yes.
These spermatogonia stop dividing, they enlarge in size because they prepare for the cell division, and these are called primary spermatocytes. Primary spermatocytes divide and form secondary spermatocyte. Secondary spermatocytes divide and form spermatid. What you come across all these are the spermatids. Look here. These are the spermatogonia, primary spermatogonia. These are the secondary spermatocytes. Primary spermatocytes. Primary spermatocytes are bigger in size, and these are the secondary spermatocytes, and these are the spermatids. Now, a primary spermatocyte completes the first meiotic division. What is that division called? Reduction division, leading to the formation of 2 equal haploid cells called secondary spermatocytes. Remember, spermatogonia are diploid. Primary spermatocytes, haploid or diploid? Primary spermatocytes?
Haploid. Sir, diploid, sir.
Diploid. Primary spermatocytes are also diploid. They undergo first meiotic division and results in the formation of 2 equal haploid cells. So secondary spermatocytes are haploid. which have only 23 chromosomes. The secondary spermatocytes undergo second meiotic division to produce 4 equal haploid spermatids. 4 equal-sized haploid spermatids. What would be the number of chromosomes in the spermatids? Diti,
N.
Rakesh,
N,
number
sir.
of chromosomes?
23. 23, sir.
23. Diti,
Yes, sir.
how many chromosomes?
23, sir.
23. The spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa. Their other is called sperms by the process called spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis, spermateliosis, or spermioteliosis are all one and the same, where spermatozoa metamorphose to form the sperms. Look here. This is what you have. What are these cells? Tell me. What are these cells? Spermatogonia. These spermatogonia stop dividing and forming. What are these? Come on.
Primary spermatocyte.
Primary spermatocyte. Jyoti, what are you doing? And these are called
Secondary spermatocyte.
Secondary spermatocyte.
and these are called spermatid, and they transform into what are these? Spermatozoa. What do you see here? This is a Sertoli cell. Sertoli cell has no proper limiting membrane boundary. See, this is what you have, Sertoli cell. What is another name for Sertoli cell? Rakesh? Jyoti? What is another name for Sertoli cell? Jyoti?
Sir, is it nurse cell?
Huh?
Nurse cell.
Then? Or you have not taken down?
Sir,
Sustain.
Odama, tell me, what is that?
Sustentacular cell.
Tentacular cells. What is their function?
To nourish the growing.
provide nourishment to
See,
the
nourishing all growing germ cells. See, these are all growing germ cells. Growing germ cells of different stages. Spermatogonal stage, primary spermatocyte, secondary spermatocyte, spermatid, and this spermatozoa. So they are all nourished by these Sertoli cells by diffusion. Food substance goes by diffusion into these cells. Thereby, Sertoli cells take care of all growing germ cells. Right? And this secondary spermatid gets transformed into tadpole like spermatozoa or sperm. After spermiogenesis, what is spermiogenesis? What is spermiogenesis? What is spermiogenesis?
The formation of spermatozoa from the spermatids.
Yeah. Transformation spermatid into spermatozoa is spermiogenesis. After spermiogenesis, sperm heads become embedded in the Sertoli cell. See here, all the sperm cells, they get embedded in the Sertoli cell and are finally released from the seminiferous tubule by the process called spermiation. Always ask a question in examination, what is spermiation? Spermiation is nothing but a release of the sperms from the Sertoli cell inside the seminiferous tubule. So you can see here, they are all found attached to the Sertoli cell, all these sperms. So after this complete formation of this spermatozoa, sperm heads become embedded in the Sertoli cell for some time and are finally released from the seminiferous tubule What you see here is the seminiferous tubule. This is the seminiferous tubule by the process called spermiation. Right? And now I wanted to give you a little bit of additional information. What is that additional information? You see here. What you read here? What you read here?
Type A to
Type A, type B. Okay. You must know that, whenever a spermatogonium, now you know sperm mother cell or spermatogonium, whenever the spermatogonium divides, now let me say that one spermatogonium, I just label it as one spermatogonium. This spermatogonium divides and forms two spermatogonia. It is simple mitotic division. All the resulting cells are called spermatogonium only. So whenever this spermatogonium divides, it forms two spermatogonia. Let us say that this is A and this is A. Again this divides, it forms A, and again it forms A, and again it divides, it forms A, and another it forms B. So during this spermatogenesis, there are formation of two types of spermatogonia from the sperm mother cell. If this is a sperm mother cell, from this sperm mother cell, you come across two types of spermatogonia to produce AA. Again, this divides and forms AA, daughter cells. Again, it divides, forms A, and another one is B. Remember, whenever this remains as, whenever they produce A type of daughter cells, all these A type of daughter cells, they remain as stem cells. They never form the spermatozoa. Only such of the cells which are turned to be B, here it is A spermatogonia, here it is B spermatogonia. B spermatogonia, it stops dividing and enlarges in size, and it forms a primary spermatocyte. So, you must remember that there are two types of spermatogonia, A and B. During spermatogenesis, so two types of spermatogonia get produced, A and B. A spermatogonia always remain as stem cells, and these stem cells help in the formation of a further spermatogonia in the next generation. And B spermatogonia, what are they produce? They only divide further and enlarge in size and form primary spermatocyte and finally turn up into spermatozoa. Is it clear? Any confusion? Come on.
No, sir.
No. Jyoti.
No, sir. No, sir.
So, look into this diagram. In this diagram, this is NCERT based diagram. You can see here, these spermatogonia are always smaller than primary spermatocyte. Primary spermatocytes are always bigger than the spermatogonia because they enlarge in size. They undergo replication. They undergo duplication of chromosome. They show increase in number of cell organelle. And this primary spermatocyte divides and forms a secondary spermatocyte, which divides further and forms spermatid, which metamorphoses into spermatozoa. Right? Now, spermatogenesis starts at the age of puberty due to significant increase in the secretion of gonadotropin-releasing hormone. You might have heard about that. There is a hormone called gonadotropin-releasing hormone. This gonadotropin-releasing hormone is produced by hypothalamus. It is a hypothalamic hormone. When the gonadotropin-releasing hormone is produced by the hypothalamus, when it comes to the pituitary, it makes the pituitary to produce two hormones, LH and FSH. The increased level of gonadotropin-releasing hormone in the hypothalamus region then acts to the anterior pituitary gland. I repeat, the hypothalamus produces gonadotropin-releasing hormone. So whenever this hypothalamus produces gonadotropin-releasing hormone, this gonadotropin-releasing hormone produced by hypothalamus comes down to anterior pituitary and makes the anterior pituitary to produce two of the gonadotropins, namely luteinizing hormone or LH and follicle stimulating hormone FSH. You must know that LH and FSH, they are together known as gonadotropin hormones or gonadotropins. Gonadotropins. For the gonadotropins to be produced by anti-pituitary, gonadotropin releasing hormone should be produced by the hypothalamus. You know, all hormone secretion is under the control of hypothalamus. Hypothalamus controls pituitary, and pituitary makes the target organ, or pituitary produces hormone which goes to the target organ, makes the target organ to produce its own hormone. LH produced by anterior pituitary acts on Leydig cells. You know, there are Leydig cells. Where you come across the Leydig cells?
In the interstitial space.
In interstitial space. LH acts at the Leydig cells and stimulates synthesis and secretion of androgens. Stimulates synthesis and secretion of androgens. LH acts at the Leydig cell, stimulates synthesis and secretion of androgen like testosterone. Androgens in turn stimulate the process of spermatogenesis. So for spermatogenesis, LH is required. FSH acts on the Sertoli cell. You know, Sertoli cells are there. FSH acts on Sertoli cell and stimulates secretion of some factors which help in the process of spermiogenesis. So you must know, for the formation of spermatid, from the spermatogonia, LH is required. For the spermatid to get transformed into the sperm, what is called spermiogenesis, we require FSH. Understood? You must know what is the role of LH. LH and FSH both are gonadotropins. If both are gonadotropins, LH is concerned with the first half of spermatogenesis, that is the production of spermatids from the spermatogonium, and FSH is concerned with maturation of these spermatids into the spermatozoa. Now, let us examine the structure of a sperm. Sperm is a microscopic structure composed of the parts like head region. There is a very short neck region, and it is followed by middle piece region, and middle piece region is followed by tail. So, yes, human sperm shows the parts like head, neck, middle piece, and tail. And you do come across a plasma membrane to envelop the whole body of the sperm. Entire body is covered by plasma membrane, except the last part of the tail. So, the sperm head contains, let us look into the details. We have seen that the sperm contains a sperm head, neck region, middle piece region, and tail. And the entire sperm is surrounded by that of the plasma membrane. Look here. The sperm head, this is sperm head. Sperm head contains an elongated haploid nucleus. This is what you have. Elongated haploid nucleus. Elongated nucleus, haploid nucleus. And at the anterior portion of this, or anterior to this haploid nucleus, you come across another important structure. This important structure is called acrosome. Acrosome. So, the sperm head contains oval nucleus, and in front of the oval nucleus, there is acrosome. I hope you may be knowing, acrosome is found from, which one forms acrosome? You might have studied elsewhere.
The Golgi bodies.
Yeah. Acrosome is derived from Golgi body. It is found of Golgi body. And this acrosome contains many enzymes, like whatever I have said. What is that enzyme? Already I have told. Hyaluronidase. It also has some sperm lysins. There are different types of hormones, sperm lysins, which bring about the breakdown of whatever substance it comes in contact with that. Sperm lysins. So, this is what the structure of the sperm. This is the acrosome. This is the oval nucleus. Surrounding the nucleus, you come across here, you come across cap, nuclear covering. Pre-nuclear, post-nuclear covering. And this is what acrosome. And surrounding that, you have outermost plasma membrane. Outermost plasma membrane there. Right. Now, the acrosome is filled with enzyme, and that helps fertilization of the ovum. It helps How it helps in fertilization in the womb, I will be teaching you a little bit more extra point later. Now, coming to the middle piece. The middle piece possesses numerous mitochondria, which produce energy or which give energy for the movement of the tail that facilitates sperm motility, essential for fertilization. You know, always a sperm goes in search of the ovum. Ovum never comes in search of the sperm. Ovum is always stationary. It won't move, but the sperm is motile. It has a flagellum for the purpose of, or tail for the purpose of swimming or going in search of the ovum. So middle piece possesses numerous mitochondria which produce energy for the movement of tail that facilitates sperm motility, essential for fertilization. Right? Now, what is most important here is that you must know this mitochondria, whatever you come across in the middle piece. The mitochondria is always arranged in the form of a spiral sheath around the middle axoneme. There is a middle part of the flagellum. It is called axoneme. So always mitochondria is found in the form of a spiral sheath around mitochondria, and such a mitochondrial sheath around the axoneme in the middle piece region is called Nebenkern. Is called Nebenkern. Please take down Nebenkern. Nebenkern. Nebenkern is nothing but a spiral sheath of mitochondria present in the middle piece region of the sperm. And also surrounding this Nebenkern, there is a thin film of cytoplasm. Surrounding this. And anyone knows that? What is the term for that? Thin film of cytoplasm. What is that? Diti? Do you know?
Sir, no.
Rakesh? This thin film of cytoplasm is called manchette. Manchette. A thin film of cytoplasm that is present in the middle piece surrounding that of the Nebenkern and other cell organisms. Mainly Nebenkern. Okay, manchette. I hope you have understood. Now, human male generally ejaculates about 200 to 300 million sperms. And generally it is said that, remember, generally human male during this insemination or ejaculation, he generally discharges 3 to 5 ml of semen. 3 to 5 ml of semen, it varies. And 1 ml of semen is generally said to contain to the extent of about 150 million sperms. 1 ml to contain about 150 million sperms. If at all 3 ml is secreted in general, what you see, it will be around 450. If it is 5 ml, it goes to the extent of about 750 million sperms. So, the human male ejaculates generally 200 to 300 million sperms during a coitus. I have already told you. What are the other terms for coitus?
Intercourse.
Next. Diti?
Copulation.
Yes, next. Another term? Diti, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
What is another term? You have not taken on all the terms?
Intercourse and
Yeah? Intercourse, coitus, copulation, or one more? It is mating. All these terms are same. So the human male ejaculates about 200 to 300 million sperms during coitus, of which for normal fertility, very important, for normal fertility, at least 60% of sperms must have normal shape and size. 60%, at least 60%. should have normal shape and size, and at least 40% of them must have vigorous motility. Vigorous motility. Right? Very, very important statement here. For normal fertilization, at least 60% of sperms must have normal shape and size, and at least 40% of them must have vigorous motility. Can you tell me why? Why it is mandatory? Jyoti?
Yes, sir.
Rakesh? Why that condition?
To reach the ovum, sir.
No, but why that it is telling that 60% should have normal shape and size and
So
40%?
for fusion,
Hmm?
like when it fuses with the egg, for that the condition is given.
Look here, I should tell you one thing. Now let us say that Jyoti has participated in the competition. And she has participated in competition of running 100 meters of distance, 100 meter running race. Okay. Okay. Now let us see that, do you participate, Jyoti?
Yes, sir, I've participated.
Okay. Now let us see that. Jyoti is finding that there are no competitors at all. What Jyoti makes, Jyoti tells her friends, 2-3 friends who are also always participating in that. She gets 3 members. And for any competition, there should be another, at least minimum 5 members. So these 3 are good. One is Jyoti, another is Jyoti's friend, one more is another friend. And these 3 makes another 2 to come and join there, 1 and 1. So now altogether, what is the minimum number required? 5 they got. And now there is competition. On your march, set, go. Jyoti runs fast, she gets first prize. And her another friend fast comes the next. And one more, third. And during the college day, in the function, they'll read, yes, Jyoti of second PUC got first prize in 100 meter competition. Everyone slaps, okay, claps at that time, and second, third prize, the students got a certificate. Now, who will know here when they see the certificate how many competitors are there? Now, is this better or Jyoti participates in a competition 100 meter where since there are about 50-60 members are interested to participate in that, what they do at that time? At a time, how many students will be made to run? Jyoti?
Sir, about 8.
Okay, 6 to 8, depending upon the track length and all, track size and all. Okay, so if 100 members or 120 members are there, then they will be asked to come in about 40 heats. Am I right? And in these heats, we see who got to first, second, then amongst them again competition. Then you tell me whether this certificate has more value or this is A condition, this is condition B, where the certificate is more valued?
A.
A. Is it in the A certificate is more valued because there were only 5 competitors? In the B, there are 120 competitors. Now, who got the first prize? Who is considered as most good sportsman when compared to A or B?
B, sir.
Okay, so B, sir.
Rakesh?
B, sir.
Yeah, how?
B, sir.
Here only 5 competitors. Here 120
So B.
B. So, like that, if at all there are 60% of the sperms with normal shape and size, even, and at least 40% of them have vigorous motility power, don't you think that in this competition, if at all only one sperm comes and fuses with the egg, it is a great achievement? Don't you think? Have you followed
Yes,
me?
sir.
Have you followed me?
Yes, sir.
We wanted to see that a most fit sperm, most fit physically fit sperm, most fit in its motility capacity, the most fit one always goes and fertilizes the ovum. That is why always we see that there is always well competition between sperms, and only the most the powerful sperm it comes, most strong one it comes and fertilizes the ovum. Sperms released from the seminal tubules are transported by the accessory ducts. You know, accessory includes rete testis, vas efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens, etc. Secretions of epididymis, vas deferens, semivesicle, and prostate are essential for maturation and motility of the sperm. So, the sperm must pass through all these accessory ducts in order to attain maturation and motility sperm. It is not mentioned in your NCERT book, but it is known fact that always sperms attain motility power when they are there in epididymis. When they are present in epididymis, please note down that sperms attain motility power inside the epididymis. That is very important place. Sperms get stored there also in the epididymis. Whenever a male is involved in mating or coitus, at that time the sperm gets released from epididymis, comes through the duct out through the urethral meatus. The seminal plasma, along with the sperm, constitute the semen. What is semen? Seminal plasma produced from that of the semivesicle, and the sperms that are produced inside the seminal tubule, all these together constitute the semen. The functions of the male sex accessory ducts and glands are maintained by the testicular hormone androgen or testosterone. Okay? Clear? Look here. This is how the sperm looks like. There is a head region, there is the middle piece region, and this is the tail region. Very clearly seen. Any doubt? Any doubt so far?
No, sir. No, sir.
No? Rakesh?
No, sir.
No doubt. I will be asking some questions at the end of the class. Okay?
Yes, sir.
To make sure that you have understood the concept. Right. Now let us look into the oogenesis. The process of formation of a mature female gamete, process of formation of mature female gamete is called oogenesis. Oogenesis is very much different from spermatogenesis. In what way? Let us see. Oogenesis is initiated during the embryonic development stage when a couple of million gamete mother cells or oogonia are found within each fetal ovary. This is the major difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. In case of males, boys, spermatogenesis starts when a boy attains a sexual maturity. Say the age of after 11 years, 12, 13, etc. But in case of females, in case of women, or girl, oogenesis is initiated during her embryonic development inside the womb of the mother. Oogenesis is initiated during embryonic development stage when at that time couple of million gamete mother cell, what you call oogonia, are found within each fetal ovary. No more oogonia are found and added after birth of a female baby. Are you following me? Have you understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you must know oogenesis gets initiated when a woman is inside her mother's womb. And when this woman is inside her mother's womb, That means during her fetal life in a mother's womb. At that time itself, a couple of million, not 1 million, a couple of million means 2 million, 4 million like that. A couple of million oogonia are found, and once the female baby is born, no more oogonia gets added after birth. I hope you understood. These cells, oogonia, start division and enter into prophase 1. Another important point. Look here. Whatever the couple of millions of oogonia are formed during fetal life, they start undergoing division and enter into prophase 1. You know, prophase 1 is the phase in the meiotic division 1. Enter into prophase 1 of the meiotic division and get temporarily arrested at that stage called primary oocyte. So, you know, oogonia divides repeatedly, and I have told you, after some time, this oogonia, after repeatedly dividing, it stops dividing and it enlarges in size, and such enlarged oogonia is called primary oocyte. And you must know that in its primary oocyte, the cell division is arrested in prophase 1, temporarily arrested, right? That means whenever a female baby is born, her oogenesis got started and it got arrested in a prophase 1 stage. And what is that? In that, oogenesis has reached, first oogenesis has reached, the first part, multiplication got over, growth phase is in progress, and this growth phase has resulted in the formation of primary oocyte. And the oogonia, which has stopped dividing and which has got enlarged in size, is always known as a primary oocyte. And in this primary oocyte, the meiosis which has started got arrested in the prophase 1. Each primary oocyte then gets, very important concept, each primary oocyte then gets surrounded by one layer, a layer of a granulosa cell, and now the primary oocyte with one layer of a granulosa cells on the outer side is called a primary follicle. Primary follicle. Please remember, we have the following terms. 1, primary follicle. 2, secondary follicle. 3, tertiary follicle. And 4, Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle. Remember, primary follicle contains a primary oocyte. Please take down. Secondary follicle contains primary oocyte. And tertiary follicle contains secondary oocyte. And Graafian follicle also contains secondary oocyte. I hope it is understood. Primary follicle and secondary follicle always have primary oocyte. Tertiary follicle and Graafian follicle will be having secondary oocyte. So, each primary oocyte then gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa cell, and it is called a primary follicle. Primary follicle with a primary oocyte. A large number of these primary follicle with the primary oocyte degenerate during the phase from birth to puberty. Birth to puberty. Before it is born, you have seen that there were about a couple of million of oogonia. Right? After the baby is born, now, right from the birth up to the puberty, many millions of primary follicle or primary oocyte, primary follicle with the primary oocyte, they get degenerated. Let us see. This is what you have. You can see here, primary follicle, then secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, Graafian follicle. What you do see here, this is a secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte. He said tertiary follicle and Graafian follicle. Whatever you come across here inside primary follicle and secondary follicle, you must know that. What is this, sir? This is called primary Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Primary oocyte. So you see here, primary follicle, primary oocyte, tertiary follicle, secondary oocyte, Graafian follicle. Later you come across a release of the ovum. It is not ovum, it is actually secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte only gets released. Even though we say ovum like that, during ovulation, ovum gets released. In fact, it is secondary oocyte gets released. Right? After that, it gets transferred to corpus luteum, or if the fertilization does not take place, it gets transferred to corpus albicans. Okay, I will tell you about that later. So I hope this is understood to you. Now let us see. I will come back again later. Therefore, at the puberty, how many primary follicles will be there? At the puberty, when a girl attains puberty, only there will be 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are left in each ovary. You just make it a point, 80,000 to, you can say 1 lakh. 1 lakh primary follicles are left in each ovary at the time of puberty. You see, in a couple of millions it started. And now, at the time of a girl attaining puberty, only there will be 60 to 80,000 primary follicles in each of the ovary. The primary follicle, I have made it very clear. Primary follicle is the one. Primary follicle is the one which is surrounded by a layer of granulosa cell. Primary oocyte. Suppose I write primary oocyte like this. Primary oocyte, which is surrounded by one layer of granular cells. One layer of granulosa cells. Then this particular structure of a primary oocyte with a single layer of granular cells is always referred as a primary follicle. Primary follicle as primary oocyte. And this is the primary follicle. Whenever this granulosa cell number increase, it is a one layer of granulosa cell surrounding the primary oocyte. Primary oocyte with one layer of granulosa cell is called primary follicle. Right? Now, the primary follicles get surrounded by more layer of granulosa cell. When there is only one layer, it is called a primary follicle. When more layer of granulosa cells and when a new theca, a covering which appears around that, now the primary follicle is called secondary follicle. Please try to know what is the difference between primary follicle, secondary follicle and tertiary follicle. Will be asked in examination. Primary follicle is surrounded by only one layer of granulosa cell, and inside the primary follicle we come across the primary oocyte. Primary follicle, when it gets surrounded by many more layer of granulosa cell, and when it is surrounded by one new covering outside, then it is called secondary follicle. Secondary follicle, right? So I will show you that. This is what you have primary follicle. Primary follicle. You have primary follicle, primary oocyte, and one layer of granulosa cell. When the primary follicle gets more covered by more layer of granulosa cell and also theca, new theca, it is called secondary follicle. Secondary follicle gets transformed to the tertiary follicle. Let us see what changes take place. Secondary follicle soon transforms into a tertiary follicle, which is characterized by a fluid-filled cavity called antrum. You can see that this antrum. A fluid-filled cavity develops in a secondary follicle, and after that, it is now known as the tertiary follicle. Secondary follicle soon transforms into a tertiary follicle, which is characterized by a fluid-filled cavity called antrum, and also the layer, whatever you have seen that new layer, theca, another layer develops. The theca layer is organized into inner theca interna and outer theca externa. So we have seen that. This is what you have the antrum, and you do come across now here. You do come across here. Now some cells, number of cellular layer, granulosa layers, many more layers are there, and these now later the theca layer which was one, it becomes to two now, inner theca and theca externa. Inner theca interna, theca externa. So here you have, this is outer one, theca, this one, theca interna, this outer one, This is called theca externa. Externa means outer. Interna means inner. Theca means covering. So now you see that whenever the secondary follicle got transformed into the tertiary follicle, you come across, no doubt, you have that secondary oocyte here inside. Secondary oocyte is surrounded by now many layers here. And also you come across the antrum to develop. And on the outer side, you come across theca interna, outer to that theca externa. Right? This is what the tertiary follicle. It is important to know that it is at this stage, the primary oocyte within the tertiary follicle grows in size and completes its first meiotic region. Whenever primary oocyte completes its first meiotic region, the resulting cells are actually primary oocyte completes. The resulting structure is called secondary oocyte, and another one is a polar body. So it is an unequal division, resulting in the formation of a large haploid secondary oocyte and a tiny first polar body. So whenever primary oocyte divides, it forms one large and another small one. The large one is called secondary oocyte, and small one is called first polar body. And this secondary oocyte again divides, and forms one oocyte and another smaller body. This oocyte gets transformed into ovum. This is the second polar body. And first polar body may divide further or may not divide. The secondary oocyte retains bulk of the nutrients. This is the secondary oocyte. It retains bulk of the nutrients, because these nutrients should get passed through the egg. The secondary oocyte retains bulk of the nutrient-rich cytoplasm of the primary oocyte. So all the nutrients now from the primary oocyte, they go into the secondary oocyte. Right? This is what diagram you have in the NCERT book. You can see that this represents spermatogenesis, this represents oogenesis. Represents spermatogenesis. Spermatogonia undergoes a repeated mitotic division and forms a spermatogonia, and some of these spermatogonia form A type and spermatogonia B type. A type of spermatogonia remains like that, and B type of spermatogonia, it enlarges and forms secondary spermatocyte. Secondary spermatocyte divides and forms the spermatids. So primary spermatocyte by meiotic region forms two secondary spermatocytes. These two secondary spermatocytes by second meiotic region forms four spermatids. And these spermatids, they get differentiated into spermatozoa. This is what you see. Multiplication phase, growth phase, maturation phase. Like that, in case of the female, oogonium undergoes mitotic division and forms a large number of oogonia, and one of that stops and enlarges further in size and becomes that primary oocyte. This primary oocyte, later it divides and forms secondary oocyte and one small polar body. Secondary oocyte divides and forms one large ovum and another small second polar body. So in case of human beings, first polar body, what happens? Whether it divides and forms two more polar body? No. Answer is no. So at the end of oogenesis, only one ovum is produced. At the end of spermatogenesis, four spermatozoa are produced. Now, let us look into that. Any doubt so far?
No, sir.
Are you following, Rakesh?
Yes, sir.
Now you tell me, what is the advantage? Why that during oogenesis, only one ovum is produced? Why? What is the advantage of that? Jyoti? Jyoti,
Yes, sir.
why that only one ovum is produced at the end of oogenesis? Any answer? You know, if this primary oocyte, if the primary oocyte divides and forms two equal sized secondary oocyte, and this secondary oocyte divides again forms equal sized ova, all the ova would have been of the same size, and all the ova would have got the nutrients shared amongst the four. So in the oogenesis, whenever primary oocyte divides and forms two, one is a large and a small. The large one, which is named secondary oocyte, it gets much of the nutrients. So we want all the nutrients to be deposited in one ovum, so that growing embryo will get a sufficient food to grow. If the nutrient is shared between all the four, little bit of nutrient you'll get, and it will not be sufficient for the young one to grow at the initial stage of development. Okay, so you see here, can you think of any advantage for this? Why that only one ovum develops and other three results in polar body? Does the first polar body born out of first meiotic region divide further or degenerate? It will degenerate, don't divide further. At present, we are not very certain, but it will degenerate. And the tertiary follicle further changes into mature follicle or Graafian follicle. We have seen tertiary follicle, and further matures and forms a Graafian follicle. The secondary oocyte forms a new membrane called zona pellucida around the secondary oocyte. So, if at all you see that it is the secondary oocyte, outer to the secondary oocyte, you come across a zona pellucida layer. It is a non-cellular layer, gelatinous layer, and outer to that you do come across another gelatinous layer with many cells embedded there. Okay, another layer, and this layer is known as corona radiata. Inner layer is known as zona pellucida. A new membrane, non-cellular membrane, zona pellucida. Outer to zona pellucida, we have a cellular layer, we have a gelatinous layer with many cells there, and this gelatinous layer with many cells is known as corona radiata. There are many cells which are held together by means of hyaluronic acid. So the enzyme hyaluronidase, which is present in the spermate, it helps in dissolving hyaluronic acid, thereby enabling the spermate to pass through or to penetrate to the egg membrane. Understood? The Graafian follicle now ruptures to release the secondary oocyte or ovum from the ovary by the process known as ovulation. So you must know, tertiary follicle just transforms into Graafian follicle. Virtually there is no difference at all. They are one is same. So Graafian follicle ruptures to release the secondary oocyte from the ovary by the process of ovulation. You know, this ovulation takes place on the 14th day in a 28 days cycle. On the 4th day, mid of the menstrual cycle, on the mid, that is on 14th day of the 28th cycle, ovulation takes place. Right? Graafian follicle now ruptures to release the secondary oocyte or ovum from the ovary by the process called ovulation. It will be always asked what is ovulation. Ovulation is nothing but a release of a secondary oocyte. Remember, even though we call it ovum, it is secondary oocyte by the rupture of the Graafian follicle. And it takes place in the ovary. Can you identify major difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis? Yes, I already told you at the beginning itself. A diagnostic representation of spermatogenesis and oogenesis is given below. You can see here. This is what diagrammatic representation. Right? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Come on. If you want, you can have this diagram. You can say this is what secondary oocyte, always called referred as ovum, erroneously, not correct. And this is the corona radiata cells. And inner to that is the zona pellucida. Inner to that is the plasma membrane, zona pellucida, corona radiata. And outer to that you come across many layers of granular cells. Outer to that theca interna, outer to that theca externa. This is the structure of the Graafian follicle. Remember that the corona radiata accompanies oocyte ovulation as well as zona pellucida. Corona radiata formation accompanies oocytes in ovulation as well as zona pellucida. Within the follicle, secondary oocyte has 1 centimeter diameter. Secondary oocyte. Mature follicles are activated by FSH and calcium. Okay, this you leave, that this is not there in NCERT book, leave it, right? So, any doubt?
No, sir.
Come on, who will explain me what all you have studied today? Come on, quickly. Whatever you wanted to say, spermatogenesis is okay. Male reproductive structure is okay. Female reproductive structure is okay. Spermatogenesis is okay. Or oogenesis is okay. Anything, even if at all you want to look into what you have taken on some points, fine. But don't read any sentence from the NCERT book. Quick, 5 minutes I'll give. On any concept, you tell me whatever little bit you know. Hello? Are you in a position or no?
1 second, sir.
Ditya? Okay, Rakesh.
Sir, shall I tell female reproductive?
Okay, come on, tell me. 1 minute. Ditya,
Yes, sir.
do you like my method of teaching?
Yes, sir.
You can understand better?
Yes, sir.
And do you see any change from your regular quality teaching?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Rakesh,
Yes, sir.
are you finding a difference in college teaching and my teaching?
Yes, sir. Bit.
Only bit, huh?
Means, yes, sir. It is different.
You are making, your understanding is becoming better now?
Yes, sir.
And are you confident that any type of MCQs you can answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Come on. Yeah. Tell me, Diti.
So in female reproductive system, the main sex organ, the primary sex organ for females are the egg or the ova. A female reproductive system has paired ovaries, ovary ducts. In ovary ducts, there are oviduct, uterus, and vagina, and external genitalia. And in first one, about the ovaries, I'll tell, sir. It is the primary sex organ which produces ova. Each ovary is about 2 to 4 centimeters in length. The ovaries are located on both sides of the abdomen and connected back to the pelvic wall through ligaments. And then the ovary is covered by a thin epithelial encloses the ovarian stroma, and then ovary contains groups of cells. Each That's the ovarian or Graafian follicle. These Graafian follicles carry a centrally placed ovum, and then accessory ducts. Accessory ducts has three parts. That three things. Those are oviducts, uterus, and vagina. Oviducts or the fallopian tubes or uterine ducts. Oviducts are in length. It is 10 to 12 centimeters long. These oviducts have three parts. That's the
Okay,
infundulum.
good. Okay. Now that I could make out. Why I asked is that to see just whether you are taking it down and whether you have understood or simply you are sitting. Okay. I hope like this, Rakesh also might have written. So anyhow, I would like to now take up this one and I would like to finish this menstrual cycle in today's class. Okay. Now coming to the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle is especially seen in case of the female. So the reproductive cycle in the female primates, which include monkeys, apes, and human beings, is called menstrual cycle. It is a reproductive cycle in the female primate. In contrast to this menstrual cycle, you do come across Easter cycle in non-primates. So The first menstruation begins at the puberty and it's called menarche. Okay. In human females, the menstruation is repeated at an average interval of about 28 or 29 days, and the cycle of events starting from one menstruation till the next one is called a menstrual cycle. So I hope you understand this point. Now, one thing that I wanted to say on that any female should not consider that 28 or 29 days of cycle is the regular cycle and all others are irregular cycle. No, not like that. Many of these girls may have the regular cycle of 30 days. Every time she may get the menstruation after 30 days of completion cycle, or some of them may have about 26 days of cycle, or to the extent of 24 days cycle, whatever it may be. As long as this cycle is going to take place around at the same time, there is no wonder, there is no worry at all. And exactly, a woman will not get her cycle on the exact 30 days of interval, exact 28 days of interval every time. No, yeah, I'll tell you later why. It is not like that. But anyhow, as long as a girl gets her cycles, almost in 1 or 2 days, that side, this side, it does not matter. If at all her cycle is of a normal, is continuously going on with the 1 or 2 days of differences in the menstrual flow, one need not bother. So in human females, menstruation is repeated at an average interval of 28 or 29 days, and the cycle periods are starting from one menstruation till the next one, till the next menstruation is known as a menstrual cycle. Right? Now, with this menstrual cycle, we have to know a little bit more. One ovum, only one ovum in general, is released during the middle of each menstrual cycle. Only one ovum is released, what is called ovulation. When it takes place during the middle of each menstrual cycle. The major events of the menstrual cycle are given below. Let us see. Okay, look here. What do you see in a menstrual cycle? Two cycles. There are two cycles involved in one menstrual cycle. One is that of the uterine cycle, some change to take place in the uterus, and another one is ovarian cycle, some events to take place in the ovary. So, during one menstrual cycle, you see certain changes to take place inside the ovary and also certain changes to take place inside the uterus. Therefore, the menstrual cycle involves two cycles. One is the ovarian cycle and another one is the uterine cycle. Right. And also you come across here two types of hormones to be produced. One is the hormones produced by the ovary, responsible for ovarian cycle, and another is the hormone produced by the pituitary, and it is responsible for the hormones, pituitary hormone, that is FSH and LH. So there are two types of hormones, ovarian hormone and pituitary hormone, and these two hormones play a very important role in the functioning of the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle in humans starts with the menstrual phase. Menstrual phase here, menstrual phase is characterized by the menstrual flow which occurs at least for about 3 to 5 days. Menstrual cycle, this is what your menses. Menstrual phase. Simply we say menses. Simply we say period. So this period, it lasts for about 3 to 5 days. What happens during this phase? During this phase, menstrual phase or menses, there will be what is called menstrual flow. Menstrual flow includes about 50 to 60 ml of blood loss, and also it involves the passing of a little bit of mucus and also scraped endometrial lining with unfertilized egg. All these together constitute the component of menstrual flow. Okay? Menstrual flow, which comes out or oozes out from the vagina in every woman during this menstruation or in this period, it includes unfertilized egg. Of course, it is torn into pieces and pieces. Unfertilized egg, scraped endometrial lining, It also involves a little bit of little bit of the mucus, and also 50 to 60 ml of blood. All these together constitute what is called menstrual flow. So the cycle, menstrual cycle in a woman starts with the menstrual flow. The very first flow may be a little bit drop of blood. It indicates that it is the first day of a menstrual cycle. The menstrual flow results due to breakdown of endometrial lining of uterus. You have already heard in uterus there are 3 layers. What are they, Jyoti?
Yes, sir.
What are the 3 layers of uterus?
Sir, myometrium.
Outer to myometrium,
It's perimetrium,
perimetrium,
myometrium, and endometrium.
endometrium. So menstrual flow results due to breakdown of endometrial lining of the uterus and its blood vessels, which forms liquid that comes out through vagina. So major component is a broken down endometrial lining of the uterus, and also that of the blood vessels, blood loss about 50 to 60 ml. This forms a liquid that comes out through vagina. Menstruation only occurs if the released ovum is not fertilized. That is very important. We have already seen ovulation to take place in the middle of the cycle. In a 28 days of cycle, ovulation is expected to take place on the 14th day. So, this ovum or secondary oocyte, which got released during this ovulation, if at all it gets fertilized by the ovum, then menstruation will not occur. Menstruation only occurs if the released ovum is not fertilized. Here, released ovum refers to, what is that? Refers to, Rakesh, released ovum refers to,
Not fertilized of the eggs.
refers to secondary oocyte. Lack of menstruation may be indicative of pregnancy. Many times, if at all a girl, if at all a woman who shows regular menstruation, if by chance one menstruation she misses, if at all a regularly ovulating woman does not show any ovulation in one particular cycle, it indicates the pregnancy, or it is to be considered, or it is doubted as she might have become pregnant. However, it may also be caused due to some other underlying causes like stress, poor health, etc. Now, I hope it is known fact. I hope you, Jyoti, you also agree with me. If at all any particular student is, let us say that she is going to write an examination on 14th day, 14th date, day 14th, one particular month, it is of 14th. On 14th date, she is expecting her menstruation. But on the 16th day, there is an exam. Jyoti, do you tell me whether on the 14th day she is likely to get a menstruation or not?
So sometimes it happens.
Sometimes it happens that whether she gets the menstruation on that day, because 16th there is exam, or it may get postponed from 14th to 16th or the 17th.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, this is true. Whenever a girl is under stress, or whenever a girl is under poor health and all, on the expected day, the menstruation may not take place and it may get delayed. The menstrual phase, first one is menstrual phase. We have seen that menstrual phase to last long for about 3 to 5 days. The menstrual phase is followed by follicular phase. Look here. This is what the menstrual phase. Menstrual phase is followed by follicular phase. Follicular phase is also called by another name, that is a proliferative phase. So you have two names here. Follicular phase is also known as proliferation phase. Proliferation phase. Follicular phase is also known as a proliferative phase. Follicular phase refers to ovary. proliferative term refers to the uterus. I hope you understand my point. The follicular phase is also known as proliferative phase. Follicular phase refers to follicles of ovary. Proliferative phase refers to the proliferation of the uterine wall in the uterus. So, the menstrual phase is followed by follicular phase. Follicular phase is otherwise called proliferative phase. During this follicular phase, the primary follicle, look here, these are the primary follicles. The primary follicle in the ovary grow to become a fully mature Graafian follicle. This is what? Fully mature Graafian follicle. So therefore, it is called follicular phase. During this phase, the primary follicle in the ovary grow to become a fully mature Graafian follicle, and simultaneously the endometrium of uterus, this endometrium of uterus, regenerates through proliferation. It regenerates. See, during this menstrual phase, it got torn out to this extent. Again, it starts proliferating, regenerate. Therefore, it is also called proliferation phase, proliferative phase. Right? So you see here, this is what the first menstrual phase. This is the proliferative phase. Right? How long it extends? These changes in the ovary as well as uterus are induced by changes in the levels of pituitary and ovarian hormone. If you notice any change in the ovary or if you notice any change in uterus, it is because of the ovarian hormone on one hand and the pituitary hormone on the another hand. So hormones from pituitary and ovary plays very important role. What are these? You have the hormones, pituitary hormones, FSH and LH. Ovarian hormone, estrogen, progesterone, these play very important role in the menstrual cycle. The secretion of gonadotropins like LH and FSH increases gradually during the follicular phase. Whenever you observe follicle to develop, Graafian follicle to develop, you see that there is an increase in the secretion of LH and FSH, and this increase in the secretion of LH and FSH stimulates follicular development as well as the secretion of estrogen by the growing follicle. So, gonadotropins, LH and FSH, secretion of gonadotropins increases gradually during the follicular phase and stimulates follicular development inside the ovary as well as secretion of estrogen by the growing follicles. So both the LH and FSH attain a maximum level, peak level in the middle of the cycle, that is 14th day. Rapid secretion of LH leading to maximum level during the mid-cycle called LH surge induces rupture of Graafian follicle. Whenever the LH level rapidly increases, this brings about rupture of the Graafian follicle and thereby release of the ovum. Therefore, LH is always called ovulating hormone. LH is always called ovulating hormone or ovulation hormone. Ovulating hormone. LH is designated as ovulating hormone. Right? The ovulation is followed by luteal phase. Luteal phase is also known as a secretory phase, during which remaining parts of the Graafian follicle transform as corpus luteum. You have seen here the Graafian follicle rupture, the second oocyte got released, and after that the second oocyte got released, the ruptured Graafian follicle transforms into another structure called corpus luteum. Right? Corpus luteum. And this corpus luteum secretes a large amount of progesterone, which is very, very essential for the maintenance of endometrium. You have already seen the endometrium to become thicker and thicker, more thicker and thicker. And this endometrium should maintain. To maintain the endometrium, we require a hormone called progesterone. Progesterone is pregnancy, otherwise called pregnancy hormone. So progesterone is produced by the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is formed by the LH. Whenever the LH reaches the maximum level, it brings about a rupturing of the Graafian follicle. So ovulation takes place. Ruptured Graafian follicle gets transformed into corpus luteum. And this corpus luteum secretes a large amount of progesterone, which is essential for maintenance of endometrium. Such an endometrium is necessary for implantation of the fertilized ovum or zygote and other events of a pregnancy. During pregnancy, all events of the menstrual cycle stop and there is no menstruation at all. In the absence of fertilization, the corpus luteum degenerates, it converts into corpus albicans, then completely degenerates. This causes the disintegration of endometrium. When corpus luteum degenerates, it results in the disintegration of the endometrium, leading to menstruation, marking a new cycle. You must also know that whenever fertilization does not take place, the progesterone level and estrogen level suddenly comes down. The coming down, decline in the progesterone results in the decline in the progesterone results in the menstruation. So progesterone is required to maintain the thickened uterine wall. When fertilization does not take place, there is no more need for the thickened endometrium of the uterus. So this gets scraped out because there is sudden decrease in the progesterone and estrogen because there is no fertilization at all. And a sudden decrease in progesterone and estrogen results in menstruation. This is very important point you have to remember. In human beings, menstrual cycle stops around 50 years of age, that is termed menopause. Cyclic menstruation is an indicator of normal reproductive phase, extends between menarche and menopause. Okay? So that's all about this particular menstrual cycle. And in this regard, just I wanted to give you a little bit of information regarding menstrual cup. A small flexible cup is made up of silicone or latex rubber. Instead of absorbing the menstrual flow like a tampon or pad, it catches and collects it. So nowadays, more and more women are going for a menstrual cup. Just before the period begins, one should tightly fold the menstrual cup and insert it like a tampon without any applicator. And here is that. This is the diagram, the figures of your menstrual cup, right? And this is inserted and kept inside the vagina. And this enables to collect the menstrual flow in that. So these are the method how to insert into that. So let me stop it here. We shall continue with the next part in our next class. Any doubt?